All right, on to the first topic. Now, like I said at the beginning of the show, we're going to be talking about Marvel. We're going to talk about Marvel Cinematic Universe. If there is a movie in the MCU that you have not seen, that you're like, I don't want this spoiled for me, pause the show, go watch it. Whether if it's Infinity War, go to the theater and watch it. If like myself, I haven't seen Spider-Man Homecoming. I don't particularly care that's going to get spoiled for me in this conversation, probably, so I'm fine with it. But if you're the kind of person that's like, no, I need to see this, then go rent it on Redbox or buy it on Amazon or wherever it is. And if you do buy it on Amazon, use our affiliate link. But we're going to be talking about the MCU. This is going to be full of spoilers. So you've been warned. All right. So first of all, has everybody here seen Infinity War? I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay. Has everybody here seen most of, if not all, of the Marvel movies leading up to it, going all the way back to Iron Man 10 years ago?
Yes.
Unfortunately,
well, no, you got to pre Iron Man it, man. You got to go to the Hulk movie.
Seen that too.
Was that? I mean, I know the first
Well,
Hulk
the
movie
2008 Hulk
didn't
came out a few
have
months after.
the.
So
We're
Edward
talking,
Norton
we're
was
talking about the
post
one.
Iron Man.
Yeah, I think the Edward Norton one was post Iron Man, but
Okay.
the weird one that was supposed to look like a
2008.
comic book. Yeah, that one.
Those
But I
weird
don't think
camera
anybody
shots.
counts that.
And they used the dead of night to cover up their horrible CGI.
I mean, at least they tried to cover up their horrible
Right.
CGI, unlike some
It didn't look
movies,
that
which are
bad
just
back
like here.
For the time, it was really good, but they
Yeah.
also just the lower budget too. So
Yeah.
imagine.
I for not that I want to get off on a tangent about a Hulk movie that has no weight whatsoever in the MCU, but the weird like comic book panels that they would do in the first Hulk movie, I kind of appreciated at least what they were going for. I think it was poorly executed,
Right.
but I liked the idea.
There's actually a fun theory that connects that movie to the MCU.
Ooh, well now if you can explain it like quickly, I want to hear it.
It's I don't remember it fully off the top of my head, but it's basically like at the end of the movie when he disappears, he like or when he was like frozen in the lake or whatever, he gets out, he disappears, and then he goes to where he is in the new MCU movie.
Oh,
or new were.
Interesting. Also, you know what needs to come back? It's Hulk Ultimate Destruction. That game was bomb. Loved that game. All right. All right. So we'll go ahead and catch everybody up. I mean, I know everybody's seen it, but all this stuff is building up to Infinity War. We have in the end of Thor Ragnarok, Thor and Loki and all the people from Asgard that survived that huge war that happened there. They're on a ship and they come across Thanos' ship, and then at the beginning of Infinity War, Thanos has basically decimated everything on there. At that point, actually, let's do this. So at that point, we lose Loki, and we lose what's Idris Elba's character's name?
Heimdall.
Okay, so they die, and not like in the dust at the end of the like they're dead. Do we think that they're dead? Like they're not coming back?
I believe so.
Heimdall definitely
the first question you have to ask is, do either of them have a contract still?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm aware that we could go. So I think I don't know about Idris Elba, but I know that for a while Tom Hiddleston has talked about going beyond Loki. In fact, I was surprised as it was that he was in Ragnarok, because I know after Thor 2, that movie was so unfortunately bad considering how great the first one was.
I disagree. I didn't like either of the first two.
Well, fine. But like Loki in that movie, I mean, he's dead. And then there he is pretending to be Odin in Ragnarok. And so I was kind of surprised. Now, I'm glad he came back because he's great. But it shocked me because I know Tom Hiddleston has talked a lot about wanting to move on from Loki. And so that's why I think he's done with the character. They killed him in the beginning of Infinity War. He's done. He's not coming back.
I mean, from a standpoint of in-universe and also looking at it from the outside like that, I could see that. But at the same time, it's Loki. Loki is the trickster god of the Asgard pantheon for a reason.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
I think he's done.
Yeah. And I think say his name again, please.
Tom Hiddleston.
No.
Heimdall?
Yes. It's
Oh.
Heimdall.
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 Heim.
Heimdall.
No,
No.
Heim with a
Heimdall.
There you go.
Heimdall. I think he's done. His character had kind of
Yeah,
already
yeah.
been reduced to not having a huge important role anymore. And now that Asgard's gone, he's got nothing to guard. So I think he's gonna go off and be like the first Black James Bond or something, or whatever it is that they want.
I
him
hope
to
so.
do. I mean, I'd be down with that. I mean, not because I'm like itching for there to be a racially diverse James Bond. I think he would be good in a role like that, whether it was Bond or some other spy.
I'd be more interested in him being the retcon Jason Bourne.
I could do that too. That'd be good.
That'd be nice.
He can be
Interesting
both.
thought.
Headcanon confirmed. All right, so then then from there, the movie, I felt like this was a movie about Thanos that had a bunch of cameo appearances from the Avengers and other people in the MCU. What now?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought y'all were laughing at something that I didn't see.
Ned's just in his own little world, man.
I'm just agreeing with you. This wasn't Avengers Infinity War. This was Thanos and the Avengers.
Right. Like the true Avengers 3 has always been Captain America Civil War.
Right. I agree.
Pretty much.
And then
I feel bad for Captain America. I wish he got his own third
don't.
movie.
He's kind of boring.
I like the movies. I love Civil War, especially because
Still my favorite.
But I feel bad because everybody else got their own third movie, whereas he had to kind of like share his toys.
Well,
I mean,
he's the oldest in the group, so he's the adult. He should share his toys.
Right.
he's actually
He was
not.
frozen for so
Bucky
long,
was
he forgot
more
his manners.
older than he is.
Oh, I know. I stand by what I said in the Facebook group. Bucky is a horrible, horrible motivation for. I hate that character. He's so dull. Just let him be dead.
Nope.
Most interesting part about him is his metal arm. Give that to
Okay,
someone else.
So it's
Bucky be
Well,
dead.
Rocket's trying to take
Give it
it.
to Rocket, yeah.
I'm good with that. Good
if
with
Cap
that.
dies or lays down the mantle, Bucky or Sam Wilson will be the one to pick it up.
Okay, well, this is my theory, right? I think Sam
And I'll be happy
himself,
either
or
way.
the actor as Sam, is not going to stick around. But if he did, he wouldn't be Captain America. He'd be U.S. agent. And two, I honestly think that if they're going to keep Bucky, he's not going to be Winter Soldier anymore. I think what they're trying to do, if they're not just making a call out to the character for Easter egg type purposes, I think he might actually become the White Wolf and be a secondary character in the next couple of Black Panther movies.
That'd be cool.
Okay.
In
Yeah, I
fact,
could see that.
I heard that he might actually become a spy for Wakanda over in America.
Right. Well, that's what White Wolf was. He was the leader of their spy rings.
Okay.
Isn't that treason?
No.
He's an American and he's
I mean,
spying.
to be fair, I would feel like he committed more treason before by working for the Nazis.
Oh well, I mean,
Not on purpose.
Who?
Bucky.
Who? Bucky? Bucky never worked for the Nazis.
He worked for the
Well,
Russians.
not Nazis.
The
Hydra.
Russians.
Well, to be fair,
Russians.
Hydra wasn't actually Nazis. They just sided with the power at the time, who gave them the free reign to do the horrible Dr. Mengele crap they were doing.
And the money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of Hydra, got that neat little appearance of Red Skull about midway through Infinity War. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Did y'all know what's his name? Agent Smith, the guy that played him.
Yeah, he didn't play it.
He
That wasn't Vigo.
wasn't him in but
Ned, you're fired from that.
a
Hugo
podcast,
Weaving, guys. Come on, Hugo Weaving.
yes, a podcast that Jimmy had me listen to in preparation for this podcast. I learned that the guy who did play him is an impressionist, and so he was doing an impression of Hugo Weaving as
Coincidentally, he used to be a
So
member
cool.
of that podcast.
Yes,
by the
they
way.
also mentioned that, and so that was pretty neat. I hope I hope that one day I will be doing a podcast and I'll be able to say something like Ned is that guy, and he was on a show that I did.
Ned is the new Doctor Octopus.
Yes, Ned, that's it. In Sony's new, if Sony decides to do Dr. Octopus in the new Spider-Man, that needs to be you. I mean, but of course they'll reboot Spider-Man like 19 more times before they finally get it right, because that's how they roll.
They better keep this one for a while.
I really like this one. I liked Tobey Maguire in the first two. I actually did not see the third one because I heard it was terrible.
It was.
Good call.
I had
hate Topher Grace for
zero.
that reason.
I had zero interest in the one with Andrew Garfield, and so I've actually not seen either of those.
To be fair, they weren't that bad.
Yeah.
I actually, and I liked them. I do have to say that Electro was poorly cast, but
Isn't that Jamie Foxx?
yeah, but I mean, Mr. Fox, as it were, did a good job of playing the character he was trying to be, but the character he was trying to be was not actually Electro.
No.
That's the big problem.
That sounds like
That's
how Lex Luthor in the new Batman and Superman is trying to be Joker and not Lex Luthor.
Which I haven't seen, by the way.
No.
Isn't that technically Lex's son?
What?
Who? Joker?
No.
Oh, in the Bat. I haven't heard that theory.
Oh, okay.
I don't
yeah,
think it's a
in-
theory. I think he's like
in Batman v
Junior.
Superman.
I get what you're saying. I was like,
Silly.
Like that's not the Lex Luthor everybody knows. That's his son. 'Cause
Well,
he's-
okay.
Dumb.
Couple of Lex Luthor tidbits to put out there. Number one, Lex Luthor was not originally bald. He was actually a redhead. The bald guy was actually supposed to be just a henchman in the comics. Number two, the only Lex Luthor that I will recognize on purpose anymore is Lex and his father Lionel from Smallville. And number three, I can no longer watch Smallville after my favorite character did what she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, and we won't go off on a tangent, but look up Allison Mack on Google and
Or don't.
and just be ignorant, because sometimes ignorance is bliss. Well, so I didn't know that Lex was like in the canon a redhead, and that explains why he's a redhead as a young kid in Smallville
Yeah.
before he goes bald. So that's a cool little callback. My favorite Lex is Lex from Smallville, but then a close second, and keeping in mind I don't really read comic books, so I have no connection to the character in the comic books, but I really loved the Lex Luthor in the animated series
Yes.
in the 90s.
I liked him when he found out he was dying.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Marvel. So well, here I'm gonna start with Sam and just work my way down my list on hangouts here. Sam, just in general, did you like the movie? Was it everything that you hoped it would be and dreamed it would be?
So the way I would put it was the most comic book on the silver screen movie you could ever see.
Mhm.
I feel like it was done really well. I don't know. I'm gonna wait until it releases on DVD to actually like think about it critically, because with anything superheroes or Star Wars related, I'm usually pretty biased, and I'm just like, man, I love it.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I mean, okay, especially Spider-Man 3. Hate Topher Grace for that reason,
Mhm.
but still kind of enjoy the movie just because it was Spider-Man. But I still feel like I feel like Infinity War was fantastic.
Yeah. Quick tangent. Do you have Amazon Prime?
Yes.
Okay, go on Prime Video, look up the movie American Ultra. The movie's fantastic. Topher Grace is in it, and he's amazing. Go watch that movie. It's great.
There is a short film that is Eddie Brock. I forgot what it's called. I have it saved on my Google Drive just in case, because it's kind of hard to find. But that was a pretty good live. I mean, it was only like 15 minutes long, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I actually recommend anybody who has Amazon Prime. It's because it's included with Prime Video. Go watch American Ultra. It's freaking awesome. Ned. Oh, also on about American Ultra. If you want to see Kristen Stewart defy the meme that she can't act, go watch that movie because she's actually pretty darn decent in it. All right, Ned.
Lex Luthor's in it as well.
Which yes, he is. The Batman
The new
Superman
one.
Lex Luthor, not Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville. All right, Ned, what'd you think of Infinity War?
So having read the original Infinity War comics so long ago,
Oh, don't be a snob. I'm just kidding. Go.
I wasn't terribly surprised by anything that happened. That didn't make the emotional impact any less, though. The "I don't feel so good" moment.
Oh,
Oh gosh,
I
with
forgot to say
Ah,
anything.
that
Yeah,
was-
no, I cried.
Tom-
It was
Tom
worth the
Holland.
second time.
That was his
Yes.
spider sense, by the way.
yeah,
Yes. Yep, his spider sense was the first like time we've seen it in the MCU, and yeah, going in the second time, that it felt worth watching it, knowing what was going on.
yeah. All right.
But yeah, it was. I liked that they were. Although Thanos' motivation significantly changed from the comics, I liked how faithful it was in how it presented the situation
hmm
and the way it built the stakes.
Yeah. All right, Jimmy, thoughts?
I have a couple actually. Number one, don't take your kids to see it. That was a mistake on my part.
Yeah.
My daughter was pretty stressed by a lot of the carnage. Number two, I anticipate ample Thanos jokes in Deadpool 2 since Cable and Thanos are the same person.
I hope so much.
Well, he's already called out Infinity War a couple of times in ads.
Yeah.
At three, I was not expecting the emotional impact that came with it. I did not walk away from the theater happy. Not in the sense that I didn't like the movie, because I did very much so. Not in the sense that I did not know what was going to happen. I pretty much had guessed almost all of what was going to happen. I pretty much had an idea in my head. This guy's going to die. That guy's going to die. I only made one mistake on that part, in that I did not guess that they were going to kill Spider-Man. But that's primarily because, well, I mean, I should have known because he did get offed, but he goes back and then spends the rest of the actual Infinity War on Earth during the comics. So maybe I should have seen it coming, but I don't know. It just, I think the part that was the worst for me was watching Doctor Strange go, watching Star-Lord ruin everything. And finally, what was the last one I was thinking? Oh, when Iron Man, when War Machine was calling for Falcon and walking right past where his dust was laying and not even seeing him fade.
Yeah.
That one
Yeah.
got me.
Mhm.
Don't
all
ask me
right,
why, it just bothered me.
Assad.
Ooh, well, for me, it was a little bit different than a lot of people because I didn't really get hit with all like the depressing stuff. I mean, myself, actually, when Spider-Man met his end, I actually got angry for a moment,
hmm
and because I mean, I wasn't, for some reason, I should have expected it, but I wasn't expecting it. And of course, he's also my favorite character, so I mean, I didn't want him to go. He pretty much was the MVP of the whole movie for me. But after seeing the end and then like the end credit scene, like I saw that and I just felt better because
Yeah.
you saw in the scene where he used the intergalactic pager or whatever to call Captain Marvel, and it's like, oh yeah, things are about to get good.
hmm
And so I felt better, and I immediately switched from, oh, this is kind of bad to, okay, how are they going to fix this? So I started like thinking about the things that I had already seen, and how they could just potentially turn things around. But then again, that could also possibly be to Jimmy because he sort of clued me into how the thing was ending without telling me how it was ending.
hmm
So when I saw him doing it, I was like, this is the end, isn't it? And it was like, okay. So yeah,
Yeah.
Wait, I did what now?
because you came on to Discord like right after you had seen the movie, and you had said something to the effect of, the movie ends just abruptly, and you're like, wait, that's it. So when that moment happened, it's like, oh, that's what he was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right when I ripped that nasty fart.
Yeah. That's definitely.
Well, no, you weren't there for that. I was telling them, at the end where Thanos sits down and suddenly it just goes black, right?
Yeah.
I moved and I accidentally ripped a really nasty one, and it was wet sounding and it was sloppy, and everybody knew it was me because I was dead center in the front row.
Oh my god.
Okay, and
oh, that's just as funny the second time.
Yeah. Oh.
But there's another thing that he actually just reminded me of. Like when all this stuff was happening, it was uncomfortably silent, both in the movie and in the theater. Like it was almost as if everybody stopped breathing.
Yeah.
So
It was like
yeah, it's very impactful.
it was
I will
like
tell
the
you-
silence when you went to go see what's the Jim from the Office movie?
A
Horror
Quiet
movie?
Place, which I haven't seen
Quiet
yet.
Place.
So no.
No, I'm
the
just
last
saying,
time.
if you're not going to see it in theater, it's not a spoiler either way. But if you're not going to see it in theater, you're not going to experience it. But I will agree with Assad in saying that it was basically going to see A Quiet Place in the theater, but condensed down to that time.
Mhm.
Like nobody was doing anything; it was dead.
The
Wow.
last time I was in a theater and experienced that kind of silence and somber melancholy was at the end of American Sniper.
Yeah.
I still need to see that.
I saw that in theater, and yeah, it was like all the oxygen just got sucked out of the room at the end, and just nobody was breathing. It was pretty crazy. All right, yeah. So I went and saw it, and I loved it. It's I like the funny stuff a lot more than the serious stuff. So like I really loved that the humor from Ragnarok and the humor from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies kind of came together into the more serious tone of the rest of the MCU, and I thought it mixed really well together. Ragnarok is still my favorite MCU movie. But again, I like the silliness. I know a lot of people thought that the goofiness in that movie was way too over the top, but you're wrong. That's all I got to say about that. But yeah, I do want to segue into talking about this point, like in the moment of the movie, like and seeing all the people fade away into dust, and even when at the end of it, when Samuel L. Jackson and Robin Scherbatsky, whatever the heck their names are, when they faded off into dust, like there was that. But then you leave the theater and you have a few minutes to think about it, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, they've already announced Thor 4, so all of those people are fine.
Oh,
and yeah,
Not
and
necessarily. Don't forget, Jane Foster becomes Thor at one point, and you also still have Beta Ray Bill. You might not actually have Thor in Thor 4.
That's true.
maybe, but that's a thing. Like, okay, so what's Black Panther was one of the ones that faded, correct? If I'm remembering right.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they're not throwing that money bag away. He's fine.
Oh no,
And that's something that like, and I don't, it's not necessarily a problem with Infinity War, because it's not Infinity War's fault that this has happened, but it kind of, knowing that there's going to be a Spider-Man 2 and knowing that there's going to be a Black Panther 2, like after you're 5 or 10 minutes removed from the moment, it's like, oh, none of that mattered. And it was kind of bummed out by it. And I kind of wish that, I mean, I realized if I really wanted to, I could go find out like who's got a contract that hasn't expired yet. But I feel like Marvel could help this by not telling us, hey, here's every movie coming out for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, just shut up and keep that to yourself.
Well, don't forget that Phase 3 changed dramatically. So
Yeah.
there's a very good chance that the next set of movies are not even going to be there past Ant-Man and the Wasp and
Yeah.
Captain Marvel.
Right.
Phase 3 ends with Avengers 4, by the way.
Which is coming out next year.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the Spider-Man sequel is the first movie in Phase 4, and that takes place right after, is what they said.
Okay. Well, and then just kind of on a side note, apparently the Venom movie has nothing to do with any of this, which I think is
Yeah.
weird. So does that mean Spider-Man's not going to be in the Venom movie at
He
all?
is not.
That's odd.
Well,
It's separate universes.
Tom
Yeah.
Holland MCU Spider-Man isn't going to be. I really, really hope they have something.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see two different Spider-Men come out in movies.
They should go
that
get
have
Tobey
nothing to do
Maguire.
Well, they got two different Quicksilvers.
I was thinking the same thing.
That's true.
Yeah, and gosh, it. I never thought I would see the day where I said, I mean, and it's not that the X-Men movies are bad because they're not. Most of them are good, but I never thought I would see the day where the Quicksilver done in the Fox movies is better than it's done in the Disney movies. Like what?
I disagree.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I really liked him in which movie was he in?
He's coming.
He
Let's
was
see.
in, I
He
think,
was
the
in
last two X-Men movies, right?
Days
Yeah.
of Future Past, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Apocalypse.
I didn't see
Yeah.
Apocalypse because I look the only one of the X-Men movies I've actually enjoyed was the very first one,
Mhm, I like
and
the
I
first one.
enjoyed Last Stand because Scott dies. I absolutely hate Cyclops.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
a monumental prick.
right.
Nice.
I didn't see Logan. I heard it was amazing.
Logan was really good.
It was really good.
I lost faith with it. I caught First Class, and
Yeah.
I caught part of Days of Future Past. But I mean,
Was-
at this point, I think they really need to pull a Fantastic Four with the X-Men series and just off it.
Was that the one that they just completely retconned all the previous X-Men movies?
Yeah,
Yep.
except for Wolverine, because
Yeah.
who are you going to get to play that part? You're not.
Well, we'll find out in a few months.
That's true, because well, it's assuming because interesting news on that front. Apparently, the Disney deal to buy all of Fox's movie properties is not as solid as we are led to believe, because now Comcast, which the only thing I can think of worse than Disney owning everything is Comcast owning anything.
Yeah.
Comcast is looking to come in and like argue to the government that Disney shouldn't be allowed to buy Fox because they're getting too big, and then bid on Fox themselves. And if you don't know, Comcast many years ago bought NBC Universal away from, weirdly enough, General Electric, who used to own NBC Universal. So now
I don't
Comcast owns it.
care who buys Fox's stuff. Whatever happens, the rights go back to Marvel. They do not transfer.
So is that actually a thing? So like if Comcast did buy Fox, it wouldn't matter because there's something in the contract that Marvel gets X-Men and Fantastic Four back if someone else buys it. I mean, that would make sense, and I would like that a lot.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything officially, and I've only seen people talk about it, but I've never seen anyone dispute it either, which I guess isn't really a good argument, but I just really want it to happen.
Well, if you're a nerd out there who is into law or are a lawyer and you know a little bit about this, send us a message. Join us on Facebook.
Well, I'll tell you one thing though. The Fox properties being up in the air like this ruin a couple of things. Like one, the Doctor Doom movie. Number two, Silver and Black, which I was never excited for. I'm far more interested in Cloak and Dagger. But Silver and Black's a Spider-Man property, so I guess they're
That is going to take place in the same universe as Venom,
Well,
right?
yeah, Silver and Black would be, if it's with Spider-Man, that would be under Sony, wouldn't it?
well, Silver and Black, I think, is Spider-Man. Yeah, because it's Silver Sable,
Silver Sable and Black.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
But I think
So
that's
it's actually under Sony then.
Venom.
Yeah. So anyway, all I hope is that if Deadpool winds up under Disney, that Ryan Reynolds gets to keep being Deadpool, and that there are just jokes about Fox just all over the place. I hope that.
Oh,
Now, I don't think it'll happen, but
I feel like there are going to be jokes about Fox in this new movie.
Oh yeah. And Deadpool 2. Oh, absolutely. That I have no doubt about. But I hope that like they just bring him in to the MCU and just let Ryan Reynolds do his
Dude, We need that fourth wall breaking character in Avengers 5.
Hmm.
Yes.
I want to see some of the interactions with some of the characters that you don't normally see. Like I want to see his complete and utter weird infatuation with Spider-Man. I want to see his interesting, respectful dialogues with Captain America.
Mhm.
I'd like to see him get into a contest against like the Hulk. I would love to see Deadpool versus the Hulk in a movie.
Yes. Make this happen. We'll pay all the money that I have.
I mean, just imagine the dry, wry remarks of Thor talking to Deadpool. Yeah.
No, Drax. And
Oh,
Drax and Deadpool.
I have mastered the ability to become invisible.
Or see how annoyed Deadpool gets with Mantis. You know.
yes, that'd
Yeah.
be amazing. I want this to happen. Okay, speaking of the Guardians of the Galaxy, Peter Quill basically ruining everything by not just waiting like what would have amounted to 2.5 seconds.
I don't think he
For
actually
this.
ruined everything. I think Steven knew it ahead of time, and he actually wanted to make sure it happened.
So I've heard that theory about Doctor Strange, because he said he saw like whatever it was, 14 billion some odd possible futures.
And there was only one where they won.
Right.
Yeah.
And so maybe that was the one where it's like, hey, for whatever reason, this just has to happen. I've heard that theory. I wonder if it'll actually come, like if they'll acknowledge that that's what happened in the movies. I don't think they would acknowledge it just for the sake of, oh, hey, there's this fan theory. That's a really good idea. Let's write it into the script. I don't think that'll happen.
Well, I mean, you look at Doctor Strange, right? As far as human heroes go, I mean, actual humans, not aliens, not computers, etc. Stephen Strange is about as close to omniscient as a hero gets in the Marvel universe that was, born and bred on Earth. Plus, he leads like the Dark Adventures or whatever it is, with like Swamp Thing, or is it Man Beast? Swamp Thing, I think. No,
Man Thing.
Man Thing, that's the word. And Ghost Rider and stuff like that. So, I mean, this is a guy who dwells in. I mean, this is a guy who went to the macro realm, the nano realm, or whatever that Ant-Man barely escaped, and that
Quantum realm.
the quantum realm, right? And that the original Wasp didn't. So, I mean, this is a dude who just basically does whatever he wants.
Yeah.
In such a short period of time, too, which makes no sense.
You're running out of names for superheroes with Man Thing.
Well, he was a ripoff of Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I see that.
I mean, it's in the original in the Doctor Strange movie. I think I don't remember, but that Dormammu sequence, we only see it 14 times, but the number of times it actually took place that we don't see, I think it was written in that it happened as close to an infinite number of times as is possible with discrete numbers.
Yeah.
Right.
When I watched that movie, because I didn't see it till it was on Netflix, I had never even heard of the character before. Again, I don't follow the comics very much. If one of these characters didn't appear on the X-Men or Spider-Man Saturday morning cartoon, I probably had no idea who they were. And even
Doctor
then,
Strange wasn't it?
then, I probably don't remember half of them.
As long as we don't see Madam Web show up in Homecoming 2.
Oh my
Oh my goodness, that would be.
That'd be trippy.
So I don't dislike Benedict Cumberbatch, whatever, as an actor. I think he's a pretty good actor. I liked him in Sherlock, but he's not someone that I'll be like, oh, he's in a movie, so I'm gonna go watch it. And so I just wasn't super crazy about Doctor Strange. But then April and I watched it, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. It's decent for a Marvel movie, but for a Marvel origin story movie. I'm also not a super big fan of origin movies. Like the first Harry Potter movie is the worst one. And not because they're kids, it's because it's a whole bunch of let's explain what Hogwarts is, and I'm like, I don't care. Can we get to the part where he starts shooting lasers out of his wand? That's what I'm interested in.
Well, that's why I like how they did the new Spider-Man was.
I actually like that about like even though Black Panther was kind of a introduction to Wakanda, they already
Right.
introduced you to Black Panther in Civil War, so
Right.
we didn't really need to go through that.
Yep.
And yeah, same thing with Spider-Man. Why do I feel like there are other
We didn't get to see Uncle Ben die for the umpteenth time. And
well, and again, I haven't seen Homecoming, so
okay, it's
Yeah,
not.
but
They skip
yeah.
over everything.
it's not high on my list of favorites in the MCU movies, honestly.
Yeah. But I like that they've taken the opportunity to introduce characters in other movies so that they don't have to spend an entire film explaining
Yep.
who so and so is on his own. I mean, and they still do it occasionally, like the Doctor Strange movie was like that. But they didn't need to do it with Spider-Man. And honestly, like I feel like Spider-Man and Superman sort of have the same problem in
Everybody knows
films,
it.
which is that everybody knows it, and yet they keep, except for this last time, they keep insisting on telling the story, and like we don't care.
Batman too.
Batman as well, yeah.
What?
It's like we already know. Just move
I
on.
don't even know that I've seen. I don't think I've seen the newer Superman movie. Was that wasn't our origin story?
So Man of Steel is an origin story. Fortunately, Batman v Superman doesn't spend any time at all on Batman's origins. However, Batman is almost nothing like any other version of Batman that I've ever seen. I mean, this includes the cartoon, the old movies, what little I do know of his comic book presence. He's like an entirely new.
This new Batman follows the Dark Knight Returns, right? Or at
Kind
least,
of.
at least in design.
They kind of dip into that.
What they should have done, what they really should have done, was built the Justice League franchise off of the Christopher Nolan movies.
Yes.
Indeed.
Agreed. Totally. Okay, so actually, that'll get me into one of the things that I did want to talk about here. Is DC, should they keep trying? And I'm not saying should they keep making live action movies or stop making live action movies, but should they stop trying to achieve what Marvel has spent the last 10 years building up to?
I don't think they should stop, but they definitely should have taken the Marvel approach and did the long game.
Yeah.
They, with Justice League, they literally were just like Avengers right away. Like it was, whereas Avengers, we had the build up. This was the third movie in the DCEU, or I guess technically.
I mean, if you count that stupid Suicide Squad movie,
but it's like
I think it's the fourth one.
They jumped way too far ahead, way too quickly, and I would have loved to see Batman's first appearance be what they kind of hinted at in Batman versus Superman, where it's the death of the family story.
Yeah.
They kill Robin.
Well, I think it's interesting that the one movie that's in the DC cinematic universe, or whatever the heck it is we're calling it, that is actually really good, stands completely alone by itself, and that's Wonder Woman.
Yep.
You could watch Wonder Woman, and there's almost, except for like the brief shot at the end where she's up in the top floor of whatever that office building is that she is, there's no mention whatsoever of any of the rest of the stuff that's going on.
Her
that's how it should have been.
Also the best.
Yeah.
Her like intro song in BVS was awesome.
Yeah. The whole movie was good. And I'm hoping, like, I'm going to go see Aquaman, but I'm hoping that they take that approach with Aquaman. Like, here's a movie about a character that exists in this bigger thing that we're building, but you could watch this movie and never see any of the other movies, and it still works. I think if they'll do that, it'll be a good movie. But if they try and do like Man of Steel and all that stuff, where they're like, hey, we're trying to launch this big thing, I don't think it'll work.
Yeah, I honestly agree. Like, I feel like at this point they should try to make it less like the MCU, where it's so connected, where it's so many cameos and other Easter eggs and stuff from the other movies and other Marvel characters, because I don't know, I feel like they ruined it. I don't think they should stop making live action movies. and the DCEU can continue to exist the way it is, but
Yeah.
they should change up the plan a little bit. I
Well,
feel
like one thing that happened in Batman versus Superman, and like when there's that part where Batman, Bruce Wayne, is going through that computer program or whatever it is, and there's all the logos for there's the Flash and there's Wonder Woman and all that stuff. And had that happened in like a Marvel movie, well, Marvel had spent 2 or 3 other movies kind of building up to that point, and so you could look at those logos. Oh, I've seen that somewhere. I might not know who it is, but I've seen it somewhere. Whereas in Batman v Superman, it was just like, look, you either know what that is from having read the comics or you don't. And there's nothing else about it that it matters.
Well, I mean, the DC is expecting that their brand recognition is strong enough to where just anybody can say, "Oh, that's Green Lantern. Oh, that's Batman. Oh, that's Wonder Woman," etc. But this whole concept of Marvel, the MCU versus the DCEU, there's this interesting like paradox, yeah, in that Marvel makes amazing movies and decent TV shows, but they make garbage cartoons.
Yep.
DC makes mediocre at best movies in most cases, TV shows that are too politically hinged, and generally speaking, much better cartoons. But at the same time, there was this meme that I saw where, you know, Marvel used to have this super light, super fluffy movie series with, you know, you got your bad guys and your superhero fights and everything, but it was really light. And as the movies go on, they get darker and darker and darker. And DC started off with that, hey, we're darker than dark, we're pitch black, we're a tar pit. And then people were like, well, you need to bring in some levity, so they start adding stupid jokes and crap to it. Yeah. And like they're Marvel and DC are moving in opposite directions, but with Marvel, it seems like it's more organic than DC. I think DC is literally just trying to play catch up, and they're just doing it wrong every single time. That's their big issue.
Yeah, they definitely, it shows that they're rushing.
Because they need a new 52 moment is what they need to do.
Yeah, but I mean, the director situation too. What's going on with Flash, the Flash movie? That was.
You know what would make a killer movie? A killer movie that anybody could watch. That doesn't need an origin or anything. They need to make a movie just straight off the bat with no intros or anything. Just have these random characters show up. They need to do a movie of Identity Crisis.
Ooh,
that would be killer. That is the story that made me decide that DC tells a better story despite Marvel having better characters.
I am unsure.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with that property. Okay,
basically. Identity Crisis is one of several crisis books that DC likes to put out. They throw crisis on the end of anything. You can tell that that's basically a book. It's kind of like Marvel has Civil War, Secret War, Infinity War, etc., etc. It's a tagline, basically. So you have this character who is not very well known in the out and about. Somewhere he's known somewhere in between Mr. Fantastic and Plastic Man. It's the Elastic Man. He's just a stretchy guy. No greatness to his powers. He's just a stretchy guy and an amazing detective. Even better than Batman, some people would say, and that's why he's part of the Legal Auxiliary. So he's out on this mission with some super duper powered nuclear chick or whatever they find in a mazo that really doesn't matter. But he's out on there, and everybody thinks that he hasn't figured out that the reason why they took him out with one of the rookie Justice League members was because it's his anniversary or birthday or something. And his wife always gets him these elaborate surprises, blah, blah, blah. And so the intro to the story is him just on a stakeout, and then they get the call that his wife had just died, just been murdered, burnt to a crisp. And the next couple of scenes were him being lonely and sad, and then the one of the most epic and heart-moving, heart-pounding panels ever of watching Elastic Man just literally melting into a puddle on top of his wife's casket at the church where the services were being held, where basically every hero character in the DC universe shows up because she was just so well loved and everything like that. But the ensuing story is all about trying to figure out who done it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And while this whodunit's going on, Succession of more family members of characters are being killed off. So the Robin of the time, Tim Drake, I think it was, his dad gets killed by Captain Boomerang, and a bunch of other characters die, and so you have these squads of people going off and hunting down the people who possibly had motive or the ability or whatever to kill these people and knowledge and whatnot. And it's a detective story. It's not a superhero story, and it's great. You do see some action. You see Slade Wilson, Deathstroke, basically defeat the entire Justice League with a laser pointer. And and it comes to find out that it's actually one of their own who had accidentally killed her and then panicked and then decided to keep up the charade and kill other people. It was the Adams wife. But you see some really dark, messed up, twisted stuff, right? You see why all of a sudden Captain Cold, who used to be an amazing Flash villain, suddenly become a punching bag to the Teen Titans because Zatanna lobotomized him.
Mm-hmm.
They had been doing that to people successively over time, over the course of however long, and they were doing everything they could, and it was almost impossible to keep Batman from figuring it out because he would have basically whooped them all. And it's an amazing, amazing story, and I don't do it anywhere close to justice. So, yeah,
I'll have to look that up sometime. All right, and the last question that I wanted to ask, and this may be very quick, because we may all agree, and maybe the answer is no, we're not experiencing it. But do any of you think that we are entering a state of superhero movie fatigue? Is it too much? We've been doing this for 10 years with Marvel. Warner Brothers is trying to get, and actually we've been doing it longer for 10 years because the first Spider-Man, I remember the promos having to be edited because they had the Twin Towers in them. So are we getting to a point where maybe we're tired of this, or do you think it's still going strong and we're going to go into phase 4 of the MCU just as big as it's ever been?
look at the numbers.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not getting tired of it. And I feel like, because they were saying since Avengers 4 wraps up the past 10 years, that I feel like we're only just getting started almost. Not really, but like, I don't know. I'm just excited for the future, and I'm totally looking forward to another 10, 15 years of Marvel movies in the MCU, if that's what they have to plan.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Ned?
I think if Marvel continues to put out movies of the same quality and caliber they've been doing so far, I'm personally not too superhero movie fatigue yet. I know James Cameron is, but that's his problem.
He's just salty
just
that no one cares about Avatar anymore.
Pretty much.
Well, if you would release a sequel sooner than...
Well, yeah.
And maybe if
I
you
don't
want to use
understand
the
why-
virus in
Hey.
his logo.
Did Fox put that out?
The Fire?
Did Fox release Avatar?
That would be interesting.
Because maybe Disney own it.
You know, I still think
They throw
Titanic is a better Cameron movie, and Titanic was garbage.
I haven't seen Avatar, and I've actually
If they
wearing
throw Avatar
The-
badge
into
on
the
it.
MCU,
I would completely agree with you about Titanic being the better film than Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jimmy, you said look at the numbers. Is that your only input in this, or?
No, these are characters that I grew up with. I didn't necessarily read a lot of the comics, and a lot of these actors and writers have taken characters I didn't care anything for at all, and have actually made me care for them.
Yeah.
To wit, I always found Captain America super boring. He became interesting right around Civil War, not movie Civil War, the original comics, when there was the clash between Iron Man and Captain America, obviously. And then, of course, the movies come along, and, well, they turn him into an amazingly fun character to watch. Never gave a damn about Hawkeye. I don't think I really do still, but...
yeah.
But, you know, his family it's an interesting change of pace. Never really liked Black Widow. I always thought Stephen Strange, Doctor Strange, was a boring character, and they turned him into one of my favorite MCU characters of all time. And I think a lot of it has to do with just exemplary casting.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Nobody but Robert Downey could have ever been Tony Stark.
Right.
Nobody but Benedict Cumberbatch could ever be Doctor Strange. Nobody but David Tennant could ever be Kilgrave.
Oh yeah, in the Netflix Jessica
Jones.
I almost Kilgrave and Killmonger, and I was like, what?
Well, okay, let's go comic book names then. Okay, nobody but David Tennant could ever be the Purple Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, they're killing it with a lot of their casting. Not always their writing, but their casting. I could never look at Thor comic and not see the man who plays Thor. I could never look at Guardians of the Galaxy and not see, David Bautista playing Drax, or, Vin Diesel saying, "I am Groot."
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, and Assad, I'll get to you. I don't want to leave you off, but I think that's actually one thing that made the MCU work so well, and it's another thing that Warner Brothers isn't getting right with DC is, when I think of like tier A Marvel characters, I don't think of Iron Man. I definitely don't think of Thor. I didn't even know Thor was a Marvel comic until the Thor movie came out.
Wow.
I knew Iron Man was. But and that's just, again,
know, right?
that's just how little I followed the comics. But these are like B and C tier Marvel characters that they've now elevated to the same status as Superman or Batman.
Well, just wait until you see Adam Warlock. Nobody hears of him.
Yeah. I remember when they was like, "Oh, there's going to be an Ant-Man movie," and I'm like, "Why?" And he's one of my favorite characters. And a lot of that has to do with Paul Rudd. Great.
I'm glad they did not have Hank Pym as the Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because, do you know anything about the Ant-Man Hank Pym in the comics?
So there's a cartoon that that Caspian used to watch that had Ant-Man in it, and it was Hank Pym. That's my only tie to that character.
In the comics, Hank Pym was like Tony Stark in that he was a little eccentric, but he was also addicted to alcohol and in some cases drugs. There was one panel in one specific comic back in 1970 something, where they had him waving his hand during an argument, and it just happened to make it look like he was hitting Janet Van Dyne.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So they turned him because of how that looked. They ended up turning him into a wife beater character and made him the bad apple of the Avengers.
Oh,
so because of that,
with that in the Ultimate comics too.
What's that?
In the Ultimates, didn't they go further with that? Like, didn't he?
The Ultimate publishing, I turned around and would not read when they had Carnage being like what Carnage was. So
yeah.
But Hank Pym was not a good character, in my opinion. And I think choosing who they chose, I can't remember his name off the top of my head now, but Scott Lang. Having Scott Lang do it is fine, and then having Giant Man, or what's the black guy's name?
That's descriptive.
I don't know.
No, I can't remember if you see him in one, but he talks to it's in the previews for Ant-Man and the Wasp. They talk to this black scientist, and this cat used to work with Pym or something, and he worked with the Pym particles, and he used to grow to giant size. He was Giant Man. Ultimately, Giant Man. This is the guy who dies in Civil War when the Thor clone hits him with the laser blast or lightning blast or whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I forgot where I was going with that, so move along.
Yeah. But anyway, my point was, I think that, that's one of the things that has made the Marvel movies interesting, is because even when they do, like, okay, we are going to tell an origin story. Well, it's an origin story for someone that nobody really, not nobody, but a lot of people don't know. Whereas over there in DC world, it's like we said earlier, here's Superman's origin story.
Guys, how about this? They need to make a movie like in phase 5 or 6, the Sentry.
Oh no,
that. So Dude, they're okay. Look, I mean, bear with me here. You got Captain Marvel. It's taking place in the 90s. Nick Fury knows who she is. He calls her on the pager, blah, blah, blah. He knew about her all along. But what happens if way in the future, right, in the MCU, Sentry shows up and then they start showing flashbacks of him fighting alongside the Avengers in Sokovia and back then, against Obadiah Stane and things like that. Do you know the story, Patrick, about the Sentry?
I don't have any idea who you're talking about.
Okay, so the Sentry is basically Marvel's Superman, really.
Okay.
But they did this. They did this whole thing when they created the character, where I think it was Stan Lee or Ditko or someone put him out, saying that he was a lost character in the Marvel annals, right? Way back in Timely Comics days. And they released him as though he had always existed, and just nobody, none of the readers, none of the writers, none of the characters in the comic ever knew he existed. And that became part of his story. It was amazing too. It was because people thought he was really there from the Silver Age.
That's so good.
But here's the thing, right? So he's a bipolar hero, as in half of him's a hero and the other half is the most destructive force on the planet. And he doesn't realize that he's two different people inside of his one body. It's his psyche. And way back in the day, he realized that he was actually his own archvillain. So he had everybody's minds erased from his existence from everyone's mind, from history, from remembering, and everything. It was just a really awesome story. But I mean, having the Sentry versus whatever the bad guy's name is, as the big bad villain in Avengers 9 would just be awesome.
And then Deadpool shows up to tell him he's lying and he wasn't actually there.
That would be fun too,
because he knows the truth.
Yes.
Okay. Assad, superhero movie fatigue. Are you experiencing it? Do you suffer? Do you need a pill to take to get over this?
Not as in the slightest.
Mm-hmm. So you're just like, bring it on. Just more.
Oh, definitely. Like, because as soon as they started making movies, what was the first one that they did out? Like way back before the whole cinematic universe was a thing. I was on it.
Yeah.
Basically.
Cool.
Was it Ghost Rider?
Yes. It was Ghost Rider.
You can get those movies for $7 on Blu-ray on Amazon.
No, Blade actually came out before that.
Oh yeah, Blade. Like that was like 90s.
And then because I mean,
Blade
was like
was the first like quote unquote good superhero movie, right? Or at least
guys,
pretty good.
Black Panther. Everyone knows Black Panther was the first black superhero movie. Get with it.
I haven't seen Blade, but I
haven't seen Blade.
I hear good things about it.
I know. See, when they first started pitching him to, to make movies out of them, Marvel wasn't doing it themselves. That's why they got all these other companies who did the movies, and they did so poorly with them. I think they just, after seeing, them not being what they had hoped they would be, they decided, you know what, we're going to do this ourselves. And that's when they started, making the good movies as we know them now.
Yeah.
But even so, I was still into them back then. Now I can see that they weren't as good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Hellboy, which one does he fall under? Is he DC or Marvel or either?
Neither.
Okay. I forget there are other people who make comics.
Hellboy is
because those movies are fun. I mean, I don't know that they're like good, but they're fun. I
enjoyed them. It's Dark Horse.
I love Ron Perlman.
That's right.
Yeah, Ron Perlman is.
I thought for a while that Ron Perlman was Thanos.
That would have made sense. That would have been
good.
Mm-hmm.
And
go ahead.
I think Ron Perlman also would have made a good Cable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he actually was trying to get that role back when Deadpool 1 came out.
Yep.
Hang on. I don't know why I'm thinking of this. And I mean, I know they won't be the same person in the movies, but is Cable the guy that's in Iron Man 2?
No. That's Whiplash.
Okay. They're like the same.
No, they're nothing alike.
Cable is like Cyclops' son from the future.
Yeah, it's Nathaniel Summers.
Yes.
Okay.
And he's got the techno-organic virus, and he's a time traveler, and he can do a lot of stuff. He comes from the same time period as like Bishop and Forge, and they're both Age of Apocalypse era characters.
Yeah.
All right, so now my turn to throw in whether or not I'm getting fatigue. So I'm not getting superhero fatigue. I don't think that's would accurately describe how I feel about it. What I get worried about is this new wave of Marvel characters. And I get it. I've spent the last 10 years getting attached to Tony Stark and to Thor and to Bruce Banner. I do not care one bit about Vision or Scarlet Witch. I don't care about them. I don't care about their relationship. I don't really care about Hawkeye or whoever it is that they're planning on taking over the mantle for all these actors that have been doing this for 10 years and are getting to where they don't want to do it anymore. I don't care about those characters. And so I worry that when we get, I don't know, a movie about Vision, if that's going to be a thing that even happens, and I'm going to be like, I don't want to see that because I don't give a crap.
Highly unlikely.
Very unlikely.
So like Black Panther is probably the one character that Black Panther and Ant-Man, they're like the two characters that I know we're going to have for a little while going forward that I'm like, yeah, I'll go watch more of their movies because they're good. But some of these other characters that they're throwing in there, like, I don't know. I feel like they haven't earned it. And
well, give them a chance to earn it then. How can they earn it if they...
Well, but like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just...
Well, you were a fan of the X-Men cartoons, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Captain Marvel is basically Rogue.
Okay.
That's literally all she is.
Yeah. Rogue's the one that touches people and they
She absorbs
lose
them.
lose their powers.
It's not the absorption powers that she has. It's actually she's got all of her flight and super strength and everything from Captain Marvel. So or Miss Marvel, perhaps. I can't remember which one it is.
It was Ms. Marvel back then.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Because DC owned Captain Marvel, right?
Well,
no, they.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did, and then Marvel swiped it back from them.
Oh yeah, because DC had a character that like.
Well, DC didn't. Captain Marvel didn't actually start with DC. First of all,
Fawcett Comics, I think.
Right, Fawcett Comics. And to be fair, anytime someone says Captain Marvel, I think Billy Batson. So
yes,
and that's Shazam, right?
Well, Shazam's the damn wizard, man. Okay,
Shazam is
now.
You're embarrassing me in front of the wizards.
Why am I thinking that what's that movie where Shaquille O'Neal has magical powers?
Okay, there's this whole discussion. Okay, all right. I just finished watching an episode of the X-Files where they talk about this. It's the whatever effect, I can't remember, but that's a common misconception. Everybody thinks it's actually a genie movie that had Sinbad or Shaquille O'Neal in it. It was actually not that name. It's not Shazam. It's something else entirely. And to admit that you have seen that movie is to admit that you are wrong. So I'm not going to say I ever saw it.
Okay, I haven't seen it. I just know that it's a thing.
I am cousin.
Yep.
It's Kazam.
With College Humor and do a trailer for that movie that never happened.
Right. I'm sure it's been done.
For it.
It's Kazam, not Shazam. That's why I'm like, what is that? Yeah, it's not the same thing at all.
There's this whole shtick in X-Files. There's this one of those fun episodes that you could tell David Duchovny liked doing. You can tell the difference visibly on his face, where there's this guy who basically is a sentry, has the same sentry thing going on where they're talking about memories. And this cat, they end up taking like 7 or 8 episodes from all the way back to season 1 and digitally inserting this guy into X-Files cases. And it's actually really, really well done. And it's a big jokey storyline and it's great. But yeah.
Well, we were talking about superhero movie fatigue, but nobody asked if we had Sharknado fatigue.
Nope, never. Sharknado all day long. In fact, the sooner Sharknado works its way into the MCU, the better.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop you there. Sharknado is vastly inferior to vastly inferior to the Tremors franchise. Thank you very much.
Oh, I love Tremors.
Oh, Tremors.
Sharknado 6 is apparently going to be the final movie.
What's that Tremors? It's like it's coming back or something. What is this I'm hearing?
Was that supposed to be a series?
Yeah,
With Kevin Bacon too, right?
Not
my
Kevin Bacon. I don't
The
think.
guy who played Burt Gummer.
The guy who no one knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a reason I keep a meme on my phone that says, "What would Burt Gummer do?"
I mean, it's a valid question.
is there anything like what would Roy Swanson do?
Pretty much.
All right. Well, I think we have exhausted that. So we all like MCU. We're all excited. I mean, like, even though I don't want anybody to think that like I just took a giant dump on the MCU, because I know like Daniel Moxie, if you're watching this, you're gonna be like, see, I knew it. He's a contrarian. He's just got to disagree with everything. I'm not excited for MCU. I just particularly Vision and Scarlet Witch. I think they're dumb characters and I hate them. And I wish then, like, if they stay dead after Infinity War, which I know is not going to happen, but if they do, I'm fine with this because I don't like them.
Scarlet Witch, man, she is unable to use her most important storylines ever because of their not being integrated with the X-Men universe.
Pretty much.
I mean, House of M. Come on, guys. House of M.
Yeah, that was.
Yes.
So anyway, all right, another live read. I actually don't have a script for this one. I'm just going to ask everybody who's listening to this on the podcast, the audio feed, or watching this on YouTube, if you enjoy listening to this and want more of this and want to actually participate in very similar conversations, go to our Facebook group. We have facebook.com/crossforgegaming. That is a feed where you're going to see like all the happenings that are going on. Anytime we go live on Twitch, anytime new episodes get posted, you're going to find that. But we have a growing community, which is facebook.com/group/crossforgegaming, where you'll meet like-minded geeks, like-minded Christian geeks who are talking about theology and movies like this and video games and comic books and whatever else that you can think of that you can possibly want to do. We keep it fairly well moderated to try and keep unnecessarily fighting, and I wouldn't say we don't like stop arguing, because that's just part of this culture of arguing with each other over, you know, what your favorite this is or what your favorite that is. But we try and keep it so there's no like fighting anything ridiculous like that. And it's a lot of fun, and we're all pretty active in it. So go to facebook.com/group/crossforgegaming and also facebook.com/crossforgegaming for the main page. You'll also find links to everything else that we do on those two places. So check it out and join us in the conversation. All right.